Welcome to the Catholic Table Talk podcast. This is where everything Catholic is on the table. New episodes Thursdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on most podcast platforms. Here's your host, William Sauber.
Thank you, Bill, and welcome back to the show, everyone, here on Catholic Table Talk podcast. And another great episode by myself this week as we just kind of discover the numbers. You maybe hear it at times. It was probably more so back during COVID as well as just last year and a couple years ago. I mean, this is the year of our salvation, 2025, when this episode is airing. But I mean, this stuff has been happening for a long time. What am I talking about? What's going on here? What are we going to discuss about today? What numbers are we doing? Don't worry, it's not really a math problem or math equation. We're just going to look at some random, not some random, some facts, some regular facts about attacks on churches, Catholic churches especially, but also just other churches, but especially against the Catholic Church in the past. Again, year, 5 years, and so on. So I ran across again a couple articles, and I should get a show on this because again, not really know how many people actually know about it and actually have seen this article. Now, if you go on Google and Google it, these articles will pop up, of course. But a lot of people don't think about it. So anyway, that is what we're going to talk about today. Just kind of numbers, and they are decreasing, in since the past few years. But again, the attack on a church, especially a Catholic church, is not good. And let's be realistic. A lot of Catholic churches are open throughout most of the day, and but there are not a lot of people there. It seems like, besides someone who's destroying it. That and more. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the show. Find these articles down below in the show notes, as well as Dr. George Shiguma getting down there, but he's still sponsoring today's episode. Find more at drgeorge.com. Thank you, Dr. George Shiguma, for sponsoring today's show. He's that good doctor who practices holistic health and healing. So, yeah, just going over a little bit of code when I'm recording this, so bear with me. But again, a couple of different articles. So, Christian church attacks down, but we see towards still higher than 2018 to 2022 in the past 3 years. Kind of like, inflation. A lot of people are saying, a couple years ago, well, inflation's going up, inflation's going down. But it's still higher, a lot higher than it was a few years back, and it's still a lot higher than other years. So it's kind of like, like a tank of gas. 1 year it's uh, $3, and then Russia and Saudi Arabia and those guys are kind of in a war, or have some tensions, I should say, and the price of oil goes up, the price of gas goes up. So and then it stays at $5 for a little bit, and then it drops down to $4. It's like, wow, it went down a buck, but it's like it still was as low as it has been. So this is from our Sunday Visitor. Saw it in the local Catholic magazine or email magazine, the newsletter. It says attacks on Christian churches in the U.S. last year, meaning 2024, were totaled at 415, down from 485 and 23. Although they were significantly higher, the totals recorded from 2018 to 22, according to a new report from the Washington-based Family Research Council, the nonprofit founded in 1983 to promote Judeo-Christian values, marriage, and family, releases hostility against churches findings August 11th this year. The annual report is based on an open source data source such as online documents, newsletters, news articles, and television coverage and media notices. Was launched in 2022 with a data and integral summary dating back to 2018. Battlefield classified incidents as vandalism, arson, or attempted arson, gun-related events either taking place on church property or targeting the church or its members are both real and hoax bomb threats. A final category, other, encompasses physical assault, church service disruptions, and general threats of harm. 14 incidents in 24 fell into more than one category, said the report. From the 415 incidents in 24 affected a total of 383 churches. At least 100 of those churches or church-related properties were Catholic. So, at least that's about a quarter, maybe a little bit over a quarter. Among the instances including the list were an attack on a Catholic shrine in Portland, Oregon, an assault on a Catholic priest in his Philadelphia rectory, and vandalism at the National Shrine of John Newman, St. John Newman in Philadelphia. FRC found the 12-month total for 24 is nearly equal to the findings of a force report, which covered 57 months. California had the highest number of 24 incidents with 40, followed by Pennsylvania, Florida, New York, Texas, Tennessee, and Ohio. Vandalism accounted for more than 68%, or 284 out of 415 of the incidents. It said that in most cases, the motives and identities of the perpetrators were unknown, and some of the churches may have merely been victims of corpustic vandalism. A number of churches experienced repeated vandalism, the report said. It pointed to Bethel Baptist Church in Portland, Oregon, as one such example. The report also noted many instances of vandalism involve destructive behaviors, such as smash windows or destroy statues. And stated some acts of vandalism appear to have been motivated by anger toward a particular church or churches in general. Other instances seem to have had political momentum or motivations. Targeting churches based on their views regarding human sexuality or dignity. The report noted some of the accused assaulters were minors or individuals likely dealing with mental health challenges. Let's be realistic. I mean, mostly anyone who's not growing up in a broken household, who is not, dealing with mental health issues, are probably not going to like their church, no matter what church it is. So it's kind of young Jerusalem and mental health, which I mean, going back to the number of instances from up on top. I mean, there's look at the states, and you kind of think about, at least in today's age, a lot of those states has a very high crime rate, right? So it's nothing really. Sure. Shouldn't be surprised, I should say, that those top 7 states are in the top seven because they are pretty much a high crime statewide. At least I don't know if Florida's or Texas. Not sure with Ohio, but for sure California, Pennsylvania, New York, and Tennessee are very high crime states. So again, going back to those numbers, that doesn't really um, that doesn't really surprise anyone. At least it shouldn't after you think about it. And also going back to the vandalism, but that was the highest percentage of what happened, right, on an attack. Well, that shouldn't really. I mean, again, it depends on which church it is and what's in there. I mean, that's not really surprising either, right? So finishing up the article, oh, there we go. In addition, the report said a few vandals appear motivated by financial gain, stealing valuable materials such as copper wiring and air conditioning parts. Wow, really? Not really nothing with the actual torch, like the um chalices or anything. Like if something was left out, that kind of surprising. Maybe if something was left out. Arson, including attempted arson, was up at representing 13% of the 24 incident total, with bomb threats at three and classified incidents at or another or other I should say at 11%. The FRC's reports of the 28 gun-related incidents in 24 were more than double. Sorry, folks. Just losing my voice still at sometimes. The bomb intensifying 23, with the severity ranging from the threats to the actual discharging of a weapon. In late January 24, then 22-year-old Forson was arrested for shooting out several windows at St. Augustine Catholic Church in San Francisco. Although two elderly parishioners were inside at the time, there was no injuries, and Augustine was later remanded for mental health diversion. A woman armed with an AR-style rifle entered the 16,000-seat Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas during Sunday services last February and opened fire, injuring to the shooter was who had obtained her gun legally and was being treated for mental illness, was killed after being confronted by two off-duty officers. Motives for attacks on churches are not always apparent, said the report. However, non-profits research indicate that incidents are spawned by pro-abortion sentiments dropped significantly, with cases falling from 59 in 22 to 11 in 23 and just 2 in 24. Satanic incidents also declined from 12 in 23 down to just 1 in 24. FRC also said anti-LGBT incidents decreased as well, although they remain high at 43 in 24 compared to 42 in 23. It noted that many incidents occurred at LGBT supportive churches and often took the form of stealing pride flags. According to the FBI's recently released crime statistics, just over 24% of the just over 12,000 hate crimes in 24 were motivated by religious bias. Of those, almost 3,000 reported hate crimes, 69% were anti-Jewish, 8.7 was anti-Semitic, Islamic, 4.9% were anti-Sikh, and 3.9 were anti-other religion, and 1.9 were anti-Catholic. So, actually, I mean, as I hear about and how the Catholic Church is being vandalized, and I mean, that's just, you hear a lot about that, and that's just 1.9, that's about 2% of how the kind of hate crimes about, yes, churches or whatever other religious places there is. But I mean, so again, there's a lot of religious bias, anti-religion out there. That is for sure. So I know there's a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff throwing at you right now, but good to read through it. So this is a letters from our Sunday visitor. Find it down below. Same with this one. It's from the Fox News channel. Very much shorter, so hopefully we'll keep it together for another 5 minutes here. Hostility toward churches across the U.S. remains high. 14, like we talked about, 415 targeting 383 churches across 43 states in 2024. So most of the states, not all the states, but 43. While that figure reflects a decline from the 485 instances tracked in 23, it's still more than double, like we talked about in 22. So the report relied on publicly available data and found a total of over 1,400 acts of hostility against churches from 2018 to 24. The group acknowledged that this figure is likely higher due to lost it cases unreported to law enforcement or by the media. The report highlighted several instances where churches were targeted by repeating vandalisms, like I said, anti-LGBTQ. Yep. So again, it's everyone. The report's authors clarify that anti-Christian hostility was always a motivating factor behind violence. But the report did suggest that declining church attendance and cultural shifts away from Christianity may be contributing to an environment where attacks on churches are more tolerant. U.S. church attendance fell from 42% to 30% over the past 2 decades, according to Gallup. Additionally, about 80% of adults in the U.S. think religion is losing its influence on American life. Now, this past weekend at Mass, the pastor was like, "I think there's a wave, a shift of Christianity right now. A lot of people are kind of rising from the culture and kind of getting back on Christian values." And basically, if you follow a lot of pretty good on fire uh, Catholic, good Catholics on any social media who share their story and stuff, I mean, you can see that a lot of younger people are switching to Catholicism and other Christianity denominations as well. So, I mean, I don't know. I think but that's church attendance. So I think Christianity is on a rise, but yeah, maybe church attendance is still maybe down a bit. With Christianity seemingly losing influence and respecting American life, fewer people feeling emotionally or spiritually connected to churches. There may be less social pressure to discourage would-be criminals from attacking churches. Calling churches. In February, President Trump issued an executive order titled Interacting Anti-Christian Bias that created a task force to investigate and halt discrimination against Christians by the federal government, which was almost opposite from what the previous administration did. The existence of such an order shows that even the federal government has taken notice of the growing trend to hostility against U.S. churches. The Trump administration Office of Personnel Management also sent a memo to federal agencies in July enforcing religious protections for federal workers in the workplace. Family Research Council President Troy Porkins, who served as the chairman of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom during President Trump's first term, said in a statement to Fox News Digital, quote, religious freedom is seldom handed to the passive. It is claimed by those who exercise it even when a hostile culture says they may not. This report clearly shows religious freedom faces substantial threats here at home. The American woke left has been international in spreading its hostility toward the Christian faith throughout every corner of America. We applaud the efforts of the Trump administration, but efforts must be taken at every level of government to protect and promote this fundamental human right. I mean, after all, it isn't the Constitution. I mean, I don't know history that well, but American history that well, but I know it's in the Constitution, the freedom of religion. Christians must expect and demand more from their government leaders when it comes to persecuting and preventing criminal acts targeting religious freedom, unquote. So again, last numbers, I apologize for that. Again, it's hopefully cold wasn't the best, but so again, it's kind of like you said, when gallon of gas is at $3. A lot of people, we get from tornado people, or Russia and Saudi Arabia, and there's some missiles going off from there, bumps up to $5, and then it goes back down to $4 after 2 months, stays there for about 5 months, and I was like, I wish it was back at 3. So well, it was lower than the last few months. So yeah, again, it's higher than it was, but it's starting to decrease. I think thanks to the I think the whys are. The plus for me is like everything about it, right? Something happens and the whole world knows it. You post it online, the whole world knows it, right? So, but just it really kind of blew my mind. Was like only 2% were kept. I thought it was more, but never mind. And still 2%, still 2% too much. Let's put it that way. So again, what can you do? You can pray about it. You can, help out the church. You can, you know, like I said, maybe donate a security a camera system at church. You can maybe have someone at church 24/7. Um, Again, there's maybe ways to kind of stop it, but also, making sure that people are attending mass, right? If they are Christian or Catholic especially, and helping the young out, because again, a lot of them are minors who are committing these crimes, and a lot of them are repeaters, so they keep coming back. They can get away with it, so they can come back and steal more, or like wreck stuff. So, and plus you got other stuff like movies and shows marketing the Catholic faith in yourself, and that's like a whole different other show. But again, this is the stuff that you really don't hear a ton on the news, but it's good to kind of find a good source online, and kind of keep up to date with it. Actually, Catholic Vote has I believe it's Catholic Vote has a track where you can kind of look up. I believe, I don't say that's true, but I could be corrected. But I think it's Catholic Vote who has like a live track of Catholic Church attacks. So again, it's kind of like how the people, Catholics being basically massacred and martyred in Africa and China. Um, it's not a lot of people talk about it, but it's definitely going on in the world. So anyway, hopefully you find it a little eye-opening. Hopefully you learn something from it. Do recommend looking over these articles because again, there was a lot of numbers in there, and was the best night for reading for a little throat tickle, and cold trouble, but made it through. God bless, God willing, stay in steady grace, go to the sacraments. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Catholic Table Talk podcast, where everything Catholic is on the table. Don't forget to subscribe to Catholic Table Talk on your favorite podcast platform to get new episodes delivered directly to you every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern.